Stand by for action.
Drop your guns, everyone. And remember, I mean business.
What's your name, boy?
Joe 90.
An unusual name. What are you doing here?
I'm an agent for the World Intelligence Network.
Satisfactory. Most satisfactory.
Look, there are 600 people up there with about 40 minutes to live. Now, you can't help them, but I believe we can. Now, what's it gonna be?
It would seem that this Captain Scarlet is now indestructible. This presents us with the clear and exciting expectation that he will become our greatest asset in the fight against the Mysterons.
If anything else goes wrong, I want you to be ready to act immediately.
Now, that was no ordinary breakdown. We've got to get up there and help them, but fast.
Thunderbirds are go.
Anything can happen in the next half hour.
Hello and welcome to Puppets Go Boom. My name is Aaron.
My name is Patricia.
And we are going to talk about Thunderbirds 6. This is the final Super Mario Nation Thunderbirds movie.
Yeah, not to be confused with the other Thunderbirds movie that we'll talk about eventually.
We will.
Yeah, so for those who are watching this video and are confused as to saying, wait a minute, where's the Joe 90 podcast? Well, go listen to the previous discussion where we talked about Thunderbirds Are Go, saying, well, we're sorry we didn't release Captain Scarlet sooner because we had to talk about the movie. So same thing here. For those who are excited about Joe 90, you'll have to wait until next week where we'll talk about it. But in the meanwhile, let's talk about the final entry in the Thunderbirds franchise.
Yeah, so the idea of Thunderbirds 6 is been a discussion that was going on, I think, amongst the fans for a long time. Like, you know, oh, hey, are they ever going to introduce another Thunderbirds craft? Because we've always had Thunderbird 1, which was the one that did the initial response. Then you had Thunderbird 2 that brought the equipment along. You had Thunderbird 3 that was able to do space travel. You had Thunderbird 4 that was able to go into the ocean, a la Stingray. And then you had Thunderbird 5, which was the one answering the emergency calls. And then Jeff Tracy thumps his fist on the desk and says, I just feel that we need a Thunderbird 6, but we don't know what it is yet. So Brains is off on a mission to find out what that Thunderbird 6 is going to be. But before we get into that, we get this really interesting sequence of Brains being brought into a aerodynamics company that wants to create the next generation of air travel. And Brains' brainy idea, I guess you could say, is an airship. And this is the first time that you see Super Mario Nation puppets laugh hysterically, and you really wish you'd never see it again.
No, it is massive nightmare fuel.
Yeah, it is. It's like, you know, and just I can see what they were trying to go with here, but it's kind of like, oh my, it's like, what though in the world? It almost doesn't feel real.
No,
and these are Super Mario Nation puppets we're talking about. Right? It's not real. But I mean, like, it's. But then we have like that, fever dream, I guess you could say, and then we're introduced into Jeff Tracy's introducing the movie, which is Thunderbird 6. Mm-hmm. So, the idea of this is that Brains does build this airship, by the way, and which is apparently supposed to be like this revolutionary way of dealing with like airship travel, apparently, and so it can go at certain speeds, and it can be like this is shown as like this kind of like luxurious resort that's inside this airship. And so that is like, it's kind of funny because you wonder which one's like Thunderbird 6 ends up being the side plot of this.
Yeah, it is. Think about even though that's the title of the movie.
Exactly, yeah. You're more like the fact that you are introduced to people being in this airship effectively, and then just floating around the world and going to see different places. But you sort of kind of like understand what's going to happen really, because the original air crew of the airship are killed and like thrown overboard, and then like these imposters come in, and I kind of can't remember like what the reason they took over the airship was for. I mean, like, was it to like do some sort of heist, or was it something like to do you remember what the reason they took that ship over?
I don't have a clue.
Okay, they took it over for reasons.
Yeah, they took it over for reasons, and the one who's leading it is the Hood, where he calls himself as the Black Phantom or something.
Yeah, like, so I'm not entirely sure like what the whole deal of it was going to be, but so they do all of that, but So that's sort of like the majority of the movie. The rest of the movie effectively is just Brains sadly coming up with like attempts at like doing Thunderbird 6. One is like trying to get a lift to like go up into a burning building, then come back down again. Which Jeff said, that just has like one use. Which kind of like is like, well, Thunderbird 4 effectively has only one use, to go into the water and like do seawater missions. Effectively, like what's so I feel kind of bad for Brains, because like he's pulling his hair out trying to like do all this stuff, and if anything, the only action sequence you see of that is just like people throwing models around, if anything.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, so it's like and then like a little joke of like Scott saying, "Oh, well, Brains, you're a beautiful model," and Brains going, "Yes." Oh, how unfortunate. It's like yeah. So there's that, and so. The rest of it ends up being kind of like a bit. This is the thing. They shouldn't have given it away that the crew on the airship were like were villains, because it would have made it more intriguing. Because it would have been like Parker saying like I've been cheating with these chaps over a cigar, and it's like well, they don't seem to know much about this ship than they should do. And but they should have kept that as the mystery, and not like saying it right up front like our heroes are right in trouble. Like, it makes no sense to do that.
Yeah. And
also, how do they keep that thing in the air? No one knows how to fly it. A lot of this movie doesn't make any sense, unfortunately.
Yeah, and once again, into the mixture, we have Alan, Tintin, Lady Penelope, and Parker.
Yeah, what was their obsession with Alan Tracy?
That is an interesting question. What is their obsession with Alan Tracy? Out of all the other Tracy brothers, Scott, Virgil, Gordon, John, I guess Alan is the popular one? Question mark?
Yeah, it makes not much sense really, because like you have the other members of the Tracy family, and I remember like when I was at school when we used to talk about like who our favorite Thunderbird characters were, and usually it ended up being Scott or Virgil. If anything, and Alan barely came into the conversation. Gordon came up once. It's like it's always either been Scott or Virgil. Effectively, like who's your favorite out of the.
And it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, because you see them the majority of the time.
Exactly. Yeah, they're the ones who are in the majority of the adventure. Thunderbird 1 because Scott is the first one who gets into the line of fire, and then Virgil is the one who brings the vehicles over to where the trouble is. So yeah, obviously they would be the fan favorites, and every once in a while, Gordon would help out when there's underwater trouble. But yeah, Alan and John don't really get that much focus. And it makes a lot of sense for John because if you know from the documentaries and interviews, Jerry Anderson hated John. So he would always put him up there in Thunderbird 5 just so he can be able to answer the calls. And that's pretty much it. So yeah, it makes sense in context for John. But Alan, I guess maybe because he's the youngest and maybe that would relate to the audience more?
I don't know, like, it's funny because, don't get me wrong, like, Alan Tracy has his place in this the Thunderbirds, lore, don't get me wrong about that, but to make him the focus of 2 movies is like, that's just exhausting.
Yeah, and if you want to count it, he's the focus of 3 movies.
Oh, yeah, he will be when we talk about the next movie, but, if anything, like, you kind of get, like, this kind of, like, travel mystery, which is already spoiled because we already know that the crew members have been killed and like these imposters have replaced them. So that's things out of the bag.
Yeah.
So, but then it's kind of like, oh hey, we have this kind of like dialogue heavy sort of like going on in all of this, and like all the travel locations, it's just forgettable at this point. Like you get to see Alan Tracy shoot a lion, which is like that's dated as all hell. You shouldn't really be doing that anymore. But then we basically get to the end of it when we finally find out that they found out that the villains are the villains, and so they end up like trying to mutiny and trying to take hold of the airship, only to end up crashing it into an antenna, which is like balancing off the off the top of it. So
yeah, that does look kind of familiar, doesn't it? Doesn't it remind you of something that happened in Supercar?
Yeah, exactly. And so there's that going along, and so then so they find out that the Phantom is involved in like this whole sabotage, and so they go off and Scott takes care of them, and dare I say, it's kind of insinuated that they killed all those people there. So I guess the Hood is now dead.
Yeah,
I'm guessing.
Yeah, I guess this is true because this is literally the last Thunderbirds thing ever, and so we can assume that the Hood is officially dead.
Scott Tracy killed the Hood. Like it's just so, who's the focus of this movie again? Yeah, there's that. And so, in a way, it would have been cool if, like, the Hood, I mean, he told to do something diabolical in regards to all of this, but it would have been cool if, like, he'd made it, like, deeply personal with, like, the Tracy brothers, to the point where Scott had no choice but to kill him, because that's just the rage that he was in. But no, it's just kind of, like, just does it like it's just, oh, I do this every day. It's like, oh, taken care of now. Okay, we're going to go rescue, Alan now.
Bye.
And everybody else. Bye. It's like, you just killed the Hood. It's like, it's just, I mean, maybe he didn't it's not like he didn't realize who it was at the time, maybe. I don't know. But I'll let me start. Scott and Tracy killed the Hood, but didn't realize it was him.
Wow.
It's like, maybe that is an ironic death for the Hood. Maybe, like, he was so in disguise that no one realized that he was the person who got killed, and he actually realized who he was. Yeah. maybe that is a fitting end to the Hood. Maybe, I'm not too sure. But so that happens. But so then we have this debate, like, oh well, all the ships that we have in the Thunderbird's arsenal are going to be no good, because if we definitely can't land Thunderbird 5 like you're on top of that thing, can you? So they have the idea to take the biplane that they had that was flown by
the Tiger Moth.
The Tiger Moth, and they're trying to land that onto the onto the ship to get everybody off. And so. The problem is that the leader of the imposters is still alive, and so ends up trying to hijack the Tiger Moth for himself. By the way, you get to see Brains in his International Rescue outfit, which gives him a nice brown color for some strange reason, which kind of makes me feel like, do they just give them, like, oh, hey, Brains, you want to be part of International Rescue? Here's the uniform. It's the brown one, but we'll give it. It's the spare one. We'll give you that one. It's like, it's just, like, there's rumors going around that Jeff Tracy was going to have, like, the gold one. And, like, there was apparently concept art of, like, him in, International Rescue attire, and, like, he had the gold, sash, which makes sense because he's, he's pretty much the leader of International Rescue in a sense.
Yeah.
Or in charge of it. So there was that. But the one thing I'll say about the way that they do the next bit is that they say that, oh, the danger's continuing because now they're all on the Tiger Moth and they want to cling onto it and everything, and then, the imposter gets killed in the fracas of that, and then they have to figure out how to dump the body of, like, of him, and just they have to turn the whole thing upside down, which adds more, danger to it all. And then, like, they do, like, all these stunt scenes with the Tiger Moth, and it just goes on and on and on and on, and just
it is so slow. It is so boring, and I get it. You're like, this is supposed to be really impressive because it's done in live action, by the way. Like, there is an actual pilot who is controlling a real Tiger Moth from the 1930s into this movie, and I'm sure it would have been really impressive in the 1960s, but looking back on it now, it drags it for so long.
It gets comical at some points. It kind of reminds me, like, it's a mad world. Like, you could imagine they would do that, wouldn't they? Like, where they're trying to get hold of the treasure, and so they'll grab onto the plane, and, like, they're all flying off, and, like, like, all the hijinks ensue. But if anything, it's played off for seriousness in this.
Yeah.
And also, apparently, when they were doing, like, all the stunt action for this, apparently they did something they weren't supposed to do, and that was fly the biplane underneath the bridge. And apparently they got into trouble for doing that.
Yeah, they got into severe trouble for that.
So, it goes on, and then you poor Parker in this. I hope Parker retired after this. He needed after he fell out of the tree. I was like, he needs to retire. He needs to freaking retire. Like, he's been through so much in his life. It's like, oh my goodness, Yeah, I said something a bit more expletive in regards to that, but you feel bad for Parker in this movie. You kind of, like, feel like, in a way, it kind of feels relieving when it's finally over. Don't you can feel like that? It's like, oh god, finally, it's over.
Yeah, and you're not supposed to feel that.
Yeah, exactly.
You're supposed to be exhilarated, and you're supposed to be wanting more.
Yeah.
And it doesn't give you more. It's like you're overstuffed, and it's like, oh, thank God, it's over.
Yeah. It kind of feels like you've just been through, like, a buffet, but full of food that you don't really like, but you kind of, like, just eating it just to be polite.
Yeah, because the chef cooked it for so long, and it's supposed to be, like, coming from, like, the best ingredients that they were able to get, and it's supposed to be, like, super impressive because you can't find it anywhere else, but you don't like it, but you have to eat it anyway because of contractual obligation, and then you just leave it, and you're full, but you're not satisfied.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's so sad that this is the end of Thunderbirds.
Yeah, this is the
last one.
This is the last one, yeah. It's kind of crazy to think that this is how they end the iconic Thunderbird series, not with a bang, but with a whimper.
Yeah, exactly. And it's so sad that this is the way that it's ended because, Thunderbirds, in my opinion, deserve so much more. And when they cancelled the TV series, midway through season 2, I thought that was a shot in the face, I thought.
Yeah, and again, they wanted to have another movie despite Thunderbirds Are Go being a bomb. They thought, oh, well, maybe the next time it'll be a bigger hit. And so when they did when they did Thunderbird 6, it actually made even less money.
Yeah, exactly. They should have just continued doing series of these, continue doing a TV series.
Yeah, but at that point, Thunderbirds was not very popular anymore. Captain Scarlet had just ended its run, and 2 months after this movie premiered, Joe 90 was going to premiere, and so they were once again going into the Lou Grade thing. They were moving on to the next bigger, better hit.
Yeah, and it's just kind of sad, really, to think that, after the re-release in the 90s, when it all just kicked off again, it's just crazy to think about that, this show got a huge other generation of fans, and in fact, it's still even getting other generations of the fans to this day. Other people, who are seeing this now, think, oh, wow, this is so amazing, I want to do fan art of this, and I want to, do, other stuff. The fandom of Thunderbirds is still going on from generation to generation because it's still on the streaming.
Yeah, it's on streaming, courtesy of ITV. You can find it on YouTube, and the Jerry Anderson website has been officially launched for some time now, releasing official Thunderbirds memorabilia, T-shirts, DVDs, Blu-rays. In fact, the 60th anniversary Blu-ray is currently out, and it's already immediately sold out.
Exactly, yeah. So it's Thunderbird still is popular, and also we got the announcement of Hit Squad as well, like we said a couple of podcasts ago. So there still is a hankering for Super Mario Nation because it's just such a unique art, and it's great now that we're seeing everything that we're seeing now. But good grief. To see Thunderbirds, the original run, go out like this, it's kind of sad when you think about it.
Yeah.
Dare I say, I think maybe Thunderbird 6 is probably worse than Thunderbirds Are Go.
It is worse. It is way worse because it promises you a massive adventure, but it ends up just being a massive letdown in every single part. It's a lot of these ideas sound like they could be really great. It's you have these imposters taking over this ship, and it's the Hood, or, hey...
But you couldn't have introduced that, like I said before, you could have introduced that at the very beginning. You could have had the inkling of, something isn't right here.
Yeah.
Those stories are always great. Look at the Wicker Man, for example. He goes over there and he doesn't realize, it's a big, massive cult that's run by Christopher Lee. It's great to go into the mystery and, figure out where this is all going to go. They could have done that with Thunderbird 6. I mean, obviously not stick, Alan Tracy in a Wicker Man and burn him to death. Obviously I'm not talking about that. But I'm talking about the fact that they could have gone into this ship, they could have been there for a while, had a bunch of adventures, going around the world and stuff like that, but then they realized the people that they're in company with don't seem all that right, and Parker's catching on, because that's what Parker does. And it's just so sad that Parker gets, roughed around so much in this episode.
Yeah, exactly. He is the butt of every single joke. And
we like Parker as well. It's just, why would you treat him like that? Come on. I get he's an ex-convict, but I mean, come on. He's the... if anything, he's come through, on many occasions, in international rescue, whether it's, nearly falling off, down a mountain, or whether it's, having to fight for himself, or whether it's, having to, pick a lock to save the guy from, from dying, because all the air that's, being trapped in the vacuum sealed safe, remember that episode, from Nosy Parker? Parker's a really cool character. Why would you treat him like this in the very final thing? It's such a sad thing to look at.
Yeah, and then the fact that we get a focus on Alan again,
yeah.
And we have Brains as kind of the main focus of it, but it's a side story of anything. And then when you have all of these cool ideas for Thunderbird 6, it ends up being the Tiger Moth. It's really, the Tiger Moth is Thunderbird 6?
I think that was done for laughs. I think it's hey, this is Thunderbird 6, and this is, it's been tested, and it's ready to go, and this was what it is.
Yeah, it's no wonder why they never included this in the canon ever again.
Yep. So, good grief. I'm really sorry to say this, but if we had to rate this, I think 4 out of 10 is probably going to be the rating.
It is a 4 out of 10.
It is a massive step backwards for Thunderbirds in this. But mind you, this isn't going to be the giant leap backwards that we're about to talk about, eventually. And so
I haven't seen the movie yet, and I'm not looking forward
we're
to
not
it.
going to have to see it yet because we've got to see Joe 90.
Oh, that's right, yeah. So okay, we saved it for now. But trust me, we're going to be getting into that pain eventually.
Yeah. So stay tuned because we are going to go into Joe 90.
All right, then.
And we'll see you for the next podcast.
Bye, everyone.